Before I get into the video, I would just like to apologize for the low audio in my previous videos. I have a low voice to begin with, but I've been having an editing issue where the audio compresses whenever I save a video, making it sound really quiet, and I couldn't figure out why. I saw it suggested online to try amplifying the audio in Audacity and then go from there, so that's what I tried this week. So please let me know if the audio is any better, if you can hear it and everything. Thank you so much, and again, I'm so sorry about that. So typically I don't really do drama and rumors in my videos. I mostly just ramble on about whatever my current hyperfixation is, but due to the unexpected response in my last week's video, which I am, seriously, thank you so much for all the likes and comments. They really do mean a lot to me, and that just, it was just like the highlight of my week. I know it shouldn't matter, but, But reading all the comments you guys left on the video made me realize just how deep and messy Shannon's departure from Charmed really was, and some of you guys shared stuff I didn't know, so I started looking into it, like, what else don't I know? And I came across this article, and reading it, I was just like, dude, you barely scratched the surface. And it seems to be the same anywhere I look. I see so many articles and stuff touching on this reason or that reason, but nothing that really goes deep into it, so I decided, seems like the perfect follow-up video anyway. So this week, we're taking a look at why Shannon Doherty really left Charmed. Was she fired? Did she quit? How do Shannon and Alyssa feel about each other nowadays? Let's find out. Sorry. Before we get into Charmed, though, let's talk about our leading ladies and their claims to fame, starting with Shannon Doherty. Already an up-and-coming actress, Shannon was cast in Beverly Hills 90210 as Brenda, which cemented her as a rising star and, as rumor has it, a bit of a diva. I don't think there's any doubt that she was difficult to work with on the set of 90210, with multiple sources claiming that she had a habit of heavy partying, coming to set late, and being difficult to work with at times, with execs from the show saying that she was difficult to work with on set. Rosen, I'm not sure I'm saying that right, commented that she had habitual lateness. Her lateness was appalling, and she had a callous attitude and an indifference. To be fair, though, if you read the article this excerpt came from, the full thing says, Green. Thank God for Shannon. She got us press, but I think she was just the unfortunate victim. I'll never forget, we were at Rosbury, an LA nightclub where Doherty was involved in a 1992 altercation with another patron. Shannon did nothing, and she was the bad girl. The other person totally started it. Certain people got along with her and certain people didn't, and the people that didn't won. Rosen. She had habitual lateness. Her lateness was appalling, and she had a callous attitude and an indifference. She was clearly not very happy on this show anymore. Shannon Doherty. There was definitely a time that I did not want to be there. I was unhappy. It sounds odd to say that I was on a hit show making a lot of money and I was unhappy because it makes me sound unappreciative. I wasn't. It's just that the sacrifice at the time seemed too large for me. The sacrifice of a camera pointed in my face 24 hours a day while I was desperately trying to grow up, to figure out my spirituality, to figure out my boyfriends. I was a teenager. Erin Spelling. It wasn't like she ruined the show or anything. It just upset the cast members tremendously. I remember them calling me and saying, "Please, can't you get her here on time?" Rosen. She showed up late 2 days before, so they were remaking a shot at 7:45 in the morning. Everybody was there, and she didn't show up until 9:45. Once Jason Priestley said, "I've had it," it was the beginning of the end. Doherty. There are things that I would call bullshit on, and the lateness charge is probably one of them. I was late maybe 4 times in 4 years. A bunch of times other cast members were extremely late. I don't think that lateness had anything to do with it. There was a lot of petty jealousies on that show, and I had never had to deal with that before. Spelling. She thought it was time to go, and the cast did too. Shannon also said, "I have a rep. Did I earn it? Yeah, I did. But after a while, you sort of try to shed that rep because you're kind of a different person. You've evolved, and all of the bad things you've done in your life have brought you to a much better place. So obviously, while Shannon's on-set behavior on 90210 was appalling at times, there's no denying that, it does go to show that sometimes a situation can be a bit more nuanced than first meets the eye. Especially since Aaron Spelling, the executive producer of many hit shows, including 90210, didn't seem to think her behavior was bad enough to pass her over for Charmed. There was definitely a lot of people who gave him the side eye for this decision, and I can't say I blame them, but nonetheless, Shannon was ultimately cast as Prue Halliwell alongside our next actress, Holly Marie Coombs of Picket Fences, which actually almost didn't happen because even though Holly and Shannon had amazing chemistry together, being real-life BFFs, and one of the reasons that Aaron wanted them both for the show, the network apparently wanted someone with more star power and tried to pass her over.
And then they call Shannon and Aaron back in the room. I was like, this isn't going well. And the network had decided that they were very happy to have Shannon, and we had another girl with us at the time as well, another actress for Phoebe, and they said, you know, we just don't feel like Holly's right. And then what happened after that was a 20-minute sort of speech that I could hear bits and pieces of.
I can tell you what that speech was.
You know, that basically two people came out of the room who had said they would not do the show without me. And it was Aaron who said, you know what, Fox didn't want Luke Perry either, and I took him and I made him a star, and I will do the same with her. And she said a few choice things that I'm sure she'll let you know.
And the network ultimately decided to make the right decision and cast Holly as Piper Halliwell, which I think we can all agree paid off in spades. Piper is my favorite sister, if you can't tell. And then there is Phoebe Halliwell, the youngest sister, who actually was not originally played by Alyssa Milano at all. An actress by the name of Lori Rom was initially cast as Phoebe, going so far as to film the original pilot and attend a few press events for the show, but decided to leave the role for undisclosed reasons, though it's heavily rumored that it was due to religion, which, don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with. I just don't understand why she agreed to do the show in the first place then, given that it's obviously about witchcraft. I don't know. It doesn't really matter anyway, because we got Alyssa Milano from Who's the Boss as Phoebe, who I personally feel was a better fit for the role than Lori.
Ancestors was a witch. We're the protectors of the innocent. We're known as the charmed ones.
And you know, they reshot the pilot, and the rest is history. And would you believe I've never actually watched Beverly Hills 90210, Picket Fences, or Who's the Boss? Charmed was my first experience with all three actresses, and this leads us to, drumroll please, Charmed. Originally airing from 1998 to 2006, the show was created by Constance and Burge and also produced by her, Aaron Spelling, E. Duke Vincent, and Brad Kern. And believe me, we're going to talk about him, but later. Right now we're focused on our leading ladies, Holly, Shannon, and Alyssa. Now, with all the drama and the rumors and the hush-hush around Shannon's exit from Charmed, you would think that they despised each other from the word go, but that's actually not the case at all. In fact, in the beginning, the three co-stars got on very well, with Alyssa saying in a 1999 interview, "This is the best job I've ever had because we bonded immediately. We have so much in common." And Holly echoes this sentiment, saying that we were very close for the first few years. And Holly describing that early on in the series, she had some health issues and had to have major surgery, and Alyssa and Shannon were really there for her, and it frustrates her that people don't seem to know or care about things like that. It's just always about the drama, you know? And Shannon and Holly were even bridesmaids at Alyssa's 1999 wedding, so clearly they did have a very positive relationship for the first couple of years, and it's sad that, as Holly said, those moments always seem to be ignored or forgotten. But through being very different people and spending long, grueling days cooped up together on set, It eventually took a toll on their relationship, with Alyssa confirming as much, saying, "We definitely didn't get along. Shannon and I are very different people, and I think it's almost like a roommate. If you spend that much time with someone and there are differences anyway, you're not always going to get along." Which I think is super fair. I love my sister, I love my mother, but spending too much time around them, it's like, I'm gonna start clawing the walls. I need some air. I imagine romantic tensions also played a role in the complicated relationship between Shannon and Alyssa, given that they both had affairs. I mean, alleged affairs with their married co-stars around the same time. Alyssa with Brian Krause, who played Leo, and Shannon with Julian McMuffin? I'm gonna call him Julian McMuffin, who played Cole. It doesn't seem like either girl ever confirmed or denied the cheating rumors, but the fact is that both Julian and Brian's marriages ended around the times of these affairs. Alleged affairs. And Alyssa and Brian did go on to date after his divorce, so yeah, just saying. The situation deteriorated to the point where Paramount even tried sending in a mediator, which apparently only made things worse, with Holly saying, "First of all, it was none of his business, and we certainly didn't want him reporting our girly problems back to Paramount. The problems we had weren't things some big company mediator could fix. They needed to be fixed between us by going into each other's trailers and saying, 'All right, I don't like it when you do this,' or 'I don't like it when you said that.'" Which, again, totally fair. I'm not saying mediators don't work, it just sounds like the company did what they thought they should be done instead of looking at the girls and going, "What is it that you need to make this work?" One of the articles I found, all the articles are linked in the description, by the way, if anyone would like to read them in full, especially since one of them has like really tiny text. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea, but I'm literally having to squint to read excerpts from them, so yeah. One of the articles I found suggested that the rift may have been partly due to Shannon being jealous of Alyssa's popularity, which I don't know if I believe. I tried Googling to see if I could find anything ever alluding to Shannon being jealous of Alyssa, but the only thing I could find suggested that it was much more complicated than that, with Shannon, much like Constance, who had already, took a step back from the show, being frustrated at the direction the show was going in, which, who can blame her? I mean, did you see season 6? You would need supernatural powers to put that dumpster fire out. But anyway, by the end of season 3, it was clear something had to give, and it's widely believed that Alyssa went to the powers that be and gave them an ultimatum. Shannon goes, or I do. Now, Alyssa denies having done this, saying, "I never even thought about doing that. I couldn't sleep knowing that I backed out of something I committed to." But Shannon has apparently said she did, so who knows? But Alyssa, to be fair, if you were confident enough that they would pick you over Shannon, then you wouldn't really be backing out of a commitment. You'd really just be betting on your own horse, so to speak, right? I'm just saying. Anyway, it's also commonly believed that Shannon was fired, but ain't exactly the whole truth either, considering it sounds like the network did her rather dirty on that. Now, that's not to say they weren't thinking about firing her, especially if that ultimatum actually happened, which I do believe it did, for the record, but Shannon beat them to the punch and tried to quit. Walk out with her head held high,
And it was pretty much from the beginning of the 3rd season that I was saying, I think it's time, and it's time for me personally, and I thought it was time for the show, because a show like that needs to stay fresh. And we can't constantly have us escaping demons and bad things. And I, especially back then, because I was much younger, I had a tendency to get very bored. And as an actor, I always liked playing different characters. So playing the same character all the time was extremely, extremely difficult for me. So no, it was, they weren't exactly thrilled when I was like, I gotta go.
Apparently, they told her, "No, you can't leave. We'll sue you." So Shannon went off to film in Winnipeg for a different project as scheduled, and the execs gave her lawyer a call. I repeat, her lawyer. Not her lawyer. Late at night saying, you know what, she is fired. Which is just super nice of them. I can see why it angers Holly so much. She's right. That is a tacky way to go about it. Very tacky. Unlike the studio that essentially threw her under the bus, though, Shannon kept it classy when she finally did comment on her exit, in the only interview I could find on the subject, by the way, where she confirmed that she had been frustrated with the drama and direction of the show, saying, I want to work with actors who really, really care and that want to be there every single day. I don't want to work with people who bitch about their job and complain about it and say they hate it or anything else. There was just too much drama on the set and not enough passion for the work. I'll miss Holly a lot, and that's really the only thing I want to clear up. That last part, though, Shannon must have seen the sun because, oof, the shade. Holly did back this up as well, saying that we were in a rut where it felt like we were doing the same episodes over and over again. Shannon wanted to make the show bigger and better and stretch her boundaries. I'd see her in the morning and she'd be like, okay, how are we going to fix this scene? She was really dedicated and she didn't have a lot of patience for anyone she felt wasn't. Which is one of the reasons I feel like Shannon should have been the one to stay. Like, I'm not saying that Shannon cared more about the show than Alyssa. I'm just saying that, Shannon clearly had a vision for the show. Like, she worked with Constance and Burge very closely, and I think we can all agree that their work helped make the show as iconic as it was. And, to be fair, Shannon was there first. She was part of the original cast. Alyssa came in later. And Shannon had begun to direct on the show and everything. It's just like, it felt like she had a bigger stake in Charmed than Alyssa, if that makes sense. But somehow she was the one who ended up, And I know everyone has a different opinion on Shannon, but I do appreciate her class about this whole thing. And the fact that she still speaks very positively about her role on Charmed, saying, Prue was a very, very, very strong woman. I was a really strong woman. I played her as that, and I think that did have a definite impression upon a lot of younger women who were watching the show, to grow up with that sort of inner strength and to help their families and take care of their families. We're very much about empowering women and empowering women within the show. And even when she's fielding questions about Charmed from the audience and stuff, like definitely direct questions that would probably be a bit uncomfortable to answer, she still keeps it classy and answers the question, but doesn't, she doesn't use it as an opportunity to bash anything or anyone, It's just, you asked me a question, here's my answer. Period. And I like that. I feel like there's way too much of this idea that you should throw someone else under the bus to lift yourself up these days. I like that Shannon has that kind of old school, I don't need to make you look bad to make me look good sort of vibe. So yeah, I definitely appreciate that. And just throwing it out there, but Shannon, Holly, and Rose all attended this 90s con. Guess who was the only one who didn't come? Alyssa. And when the Charmed/Grey's Anatomy crossover happened, it was just Holly and Alyssa. No Rose. I noticed that the common denominator between both of these reunions is that Rose categorically refuses to be anywhere near Alyssa, which makes you wonder why. I mean, Rose has made it crystal clear that she does not like Alyssa Milano.
We can talk about how much Alyssa Milano sucks.
She really does suck. I had
really
to keep that
suck.
shit under wraps for so many years to not ruin people's childhoods. And I honestly held on for as long as I could, but no, not my kind of person.
And I know that Rose has gone a bit over the years, but she doesn't strike me as a liar. And notice how her comments about toxicity on the set of Charmed are usually directed at Alyssa. Not Alyssa and Holly, but Alyssa specifically. They even went at each other on Twitter after Rose posted, I don't know, something about politics. Honestly, politics bores me to tears, and I generally don't pay attention unless something funny is going on, so I can't even begin to pretend to know what they're talking about. But whatever it was, Alyssa said, Rose and anyone bleeding the same Democrats don't help people nonsense. Your lies are going to hurt people less privileged than you. It's the kind of thing an actual fraud would do. Thousands of people are dying a day, but you go on with your hyperbolic attention-seeking tweets. Prompting Rose to respond with her own tirade, saying, "You threw a fit in front of the crew, yelling, 'They don't pay me enough to do this shit.' Appalling behavior on the daily. I cried every time we got renewed because you made that set toxic AF. Now get off my coattails, you effing fraud." Rose also later followed this up during an interview with Nightline, saying,
"Are you proud of her?"
I don't like her.
Why?
Because I think she's a lie.
Why?
Do you think I don't know these people? I'm not looking at this from the outside. I have a lot of experience. I know she's married to a CIA agent. Do the math. Who's behind Time's Up? CIA. Where do they meet? CIA. Who needs good PR? CIA. Who are part of the pimp problem? CIA.
These are very powerful people you're talking about.
They are. So am I.
Alyssa responded to this saying, "Do you think we can get hashtag Alyssa Milano is a lie to trend #1 before I fall asleep? Everyone's saying sweet things. I see you. Thank you. Everyone's saying horrible things. I see you. F off. Hurt people hurt people. Empowered people empower people. Loved people love people." And apparently she also blocked Rose, which, fair. She also posted at Shannon on Instagram saying that she feared getting a rep for being difficult to work with too, but realizes now that they were never the difficult ones. Now, the reason I bring all this up is because you hear a lot about how Shannon was apparently difficult to work with on the set of Charmed. You hear it all the time, in fact. But unlike with 90210, I've never seen any examples of why. Not being late, not partying, or acting like a diva. It's always just a vague, "Oh, she and Alyssa didn't get along," which to me doesn't say much. Especially when you add the fact that I used to be a huge General Hospital fan and even started collecting Soaps in Depth magazines. And in the September 11th, 2007 issue, so sorry about the date, by the way, I really wish it had been any other day, there was a section on Rick Hurst and his experience playing Troxa in season 3 of Charmed, of which he said of Shannon. You know what, I'll just read the whole article. It's not that long, but if I try and go straight for the quote, it's going to sound really disjointed and out of place, so yeah. "Hey, wasn't that Rick taking a walk on the dark side? Rick Hurst can be plenty scary as ruthless district attorney Rick Lansing on General Hospital, but he really turned on the nastiness in his incarnation as the villain Troxa on Charmed. The character, who was introduced in a November 2000 episode called Sight Unseen, is a demonic assassin who just happened to be a master of invisibility. I worked with Shannon Doherty, who is a complete professional," he recalls of the tabloid queen. Nice way of phrasing that, by the way, Soaps in Depth. During rehearsal for a scene where Hurst was to be thrown into a vortex, he made a real impression on her. There were electrodes going up through my body and wrapping around my neck and lifting me up off the ground. I knew I was going to have to go there, so I was doing it in rehearsal, Hurst recalls. Shannon said, "Oh my God, he's actually acting." I was like, "Is that okay?" And she said, "No, it's great." She probably got people in there who were a little bit intimidated by her. Hurst's episode is included on the 3rd season on DVD. Oh, and the little quote here says, "It was a great experience and a fun set." And then you have Alyssa, who further commented on her relationship with Shannon in 2021, saying,
"You know, I could take responsibility for a lot of our tension that we had, feeling that I was in competition rather than it being that sisterhood that the show is so much about. And I have some guilt about my part in that."
Your co-star Rose McGowan, right? One of the most outspoken people in Hollywood.
Love what she's doing.
Absolutely.
Right now.
She's talking so much on gender rights issues. She said she was fired by her agent for speaking out against sexism. Right here we have it. Now, when you were working together, did you see these elements of her becoming an activist?
Oh yeah, she was always an activist.
Yes.
And you know what was great about Rose is Rose has not changed a single day since the first time I have met her. She is who she is. She owns up to everything that she's about. And I love that she's using her voice right now and her artistry And it's been really a pleasure to watch her become so brave and do these things, because, mind you, it's not just about my industry. Right.
All this leads me to wonder, was it really Shannon who was the difficult one to work with? Or was she more the company's scapegoat? I'm not saying she was innocent, by no means. As Holly said, there were no angels. But Shannon always seems to get all of the blame for the tension between her and Alyssa, and I just don't think that's fair, especially when all signs seem to be pointing to the idea that Alyssa was just as difficult, if not more so, to work with. And honestly, I also side-eye a lot of Alyssa's behavior now. For example, I noticed that while Shannon is generally quite private and pretty much stays in her lane, and if she comments on drama at all, it's not the focus of what she's saying.
Say 3 nice things about Alyssa Milano. That's positive.
She's pretty. She's pretty. She's pretty.
But Alyssa almost seems to like keeping the drama alive, making sure to mention it now and then, even years and years after the show ended. Like, I get if you're asked a direct question, you need to answer, but sometimes it feels like it's more than that. Especially the way she feels the need to publicly put it out there that she and Shannon are cordial now.
Let's say we are cordial.
It's just a little strange in my opinion. It's like, if you and Shannon are good, then why does it matter if the world knows that or not? Also, Alyssa only reached out to Shannon after learning she had been diagnosed with cancer. Like, I'm sorry, maybe it was a wake-up call or something, but I just feel like if Alyssa really had that much guilt and regret over her role in the feud and on-set tension, why did she wait so long, wait until she found out Shannon was sick, to reach out? Like, I don't know, that just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And don't you think it's a little sus that Alyssa only decided to put it out there that she and Shannon are cordial now while promoting her new book, Sorry Not Sorry?
And I feel like when people talk about stuff like that, it's to sell a book.
I'm generally not a big conspiracy theorist, but I definitely take note of things like that. But anyway, regardless of what happened on set between the girls, I feel like Brad Kern, he's coming back. I feel like Brad Kern does not get nearly enough blame for his role in the drama because, you know, he doesn't get talked about enough in regards to this stuff. It's always like he was on the outside looking in, but through little things I've seen said here and there, just like little bits and pieces over interviews and stuff, it really feels like he might have been feeding the drama. And I would bet you that if all 4 girls sat down and compared notes about things Brad may or may not have said to them about the other co-stars, I bet you it would probably be a very eye-opening experience. He always struck me as the type of person who likes to stir the pot, and so it does not surprise me at all that in December 2017 it came out that he had been investigated twice by CBS for sexual harassment and discrimination against women on the set of NCIS New Orleans, and ended up being fired after a 3rd investigation, which, by the way, why did it take 3 investigations to get rid of him? Like, holy heck, CBS, what are you doing? Protect your employees. Jeez. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, if he was like that on NCIS New Orleans, there's no way he wasn't like that on Charmed, which was a female-led show. And it would seem I was right, because Kern's 15-year pattern of sexual harassment and discrimination, which included inappropriate comments about women and people of color, resulted in 2 internal CBS investigations into his behavior. During his tenure on Charmed, people on staff remember him referring to the actresses as bitches, trash, psychos, and crazy. He created a toxic workplace. I've been on a lot of staffs, and this one had the most terrible, oppressive atmosphere by far, and it was worse for the women. And the other thing is, I can almost understand the bitches, psychos, and crazy comment, because if they really were fighting that much and it was interfering with doing the show, I understand that at a certain point you'd probably just snap and say something like that. But trash? Trash? Are you serious right now? You do realize that this supposed trash is the face of your show? That if they all just went on strike and refused to come in the next day, you'd have a big fat cauldron of nothing? Anyway, point is, Brad Kern sounds like he was a super nice person, which is another reason. There is a belief that the reason Shannon never appeared on the show again, even in like flashback footage or photos, was because Shannon was demanding a lot of money and like a per episode fee from the studio, which turns out is something Brad Kern said, which he eventually admitted wasn't true. And he also said that not bringing Shannon back for the series finale was due to money as well, but Shannon disputes this, saying that she said no to coming back because of the way it was written.
The reason for the season finale that I didn't is because, honestly, the way that they sort of wanted to bring Prue back into it was just not authentic, and there was nothing interesting and good, and it wasn't true to the character, so that's why I said no.
So yeah, there is no concrete reason as to why Prue was never shown in the show again. I can only assume that it was a matter of pride, like, you essentially pushed me out, no, you're not using my face anymore. I will say I do not believe Brad Kern. It's like, oh yeah, Shannon wanted a lot of money and we just couldn't afford it. It's like, oh, so we're supposed to believe you? You mean like how you told Holly you would share the Book of Shadows with her and you just never did? Yeah, sorry, Brad, but I just don't believe a word that comes out of your mouth. So, shush. But anyway, long story really short, that is what I could find about Shannon's departure from the show. In the end, it seems like everyone put their hand in the cookie jar at some point and contributed to the issues on the show. I don't think it was any one person's fault or, you know, that they hated each other or something. To me, it just sounds like when cracks started forming, no one did anything to fix it. In fact, certain things like that Mediator did things that just widened the divide, and then eventually it just, you know, like I said, something had to give, and it did, in the form of Shannon leaving the show. So, you know, I do thank all 4 women for their contribution to Charmed, and it was a pleasure watching all 4 of them on screen. They're all amazing actresses, they're all incredibly talented, and I'm just sorry that life and other issues got in the way of them being friends too. So yeah, that is the end of it. I hope I did okay for my first deep dive into like personal relations. So I didn't know if I did a good job, if I stayed on track. And I hope it's actually audible this time. Like, Windows Movie Maker, why do you hate me so much? And I'm sorry, I have to use Windows Movie Maker because my computer's a total dinosaur at this point. Anyway, that's enough of my... But yeah, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!